This video is on lesson 8.1 in our textbook called Understanding Thousandths. It's on page 7. If you had a number line that goes from 0 to 1, the start point is 0, the end point is 1, and we divide the number line into 10 parts, each part is going to be 0.1. So we can have 9 lines in here, and each one would be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on. So 1 part of 1 whole divided into 10 equal parts would give us 1/10. 1/10, in other words, in decimal form, is 0.1. 0.1. If we had another number line where the start point is 0 and the end point is 0.1, so the end point is 1/10, 1 part of 1/10, 1 part of this 1/10 is going to be 1/100th. So it's going to be 0.01. So this is called 1/100th, this decimal right here, 1/100th, 0.01. So 1 part of 1/10 divided into 10 equal parts is 1/100th. If we had a third number line with the start point being 0 and the last point being 0.01, so 100th is the last point, then within that, if we divided that number line into 10 parts, each part would be worth 1/1000ths. We would have 2 zeros after the decimal point and then the 1. And in fraction form, it would be 1/1000. And that's if our number line goes up till 1/100ths only. So 1 part of 1/100th divided into 10 equal parts is 1/1000th. So if 1 whole is divided into 1,000 equal parts, then each part is going to be 1/1000th. So if this whole number line was divided into 1,000 parts, 1 part of it would be 1/1000ths. A cube like this has 1,000 little units in it. You know that each row has 10 little cubes in it, and each face of the cube has 100 cubes in it. So this whole part has 100 cubes in it, and this whole part has 100 cubes in it. You know that there's 10 layers of 100 cubes within this 3D cube. So this makes 1 layer of 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We know that there's 10 layers of 100 cubes each. That means this whole thing has 1,000 little cubes in it. If I shade one of them, I'm going to shade this one right here in blue. What's my fraction going to be? I only shaded 1 cube out of 1,000. My fraction is 1/1000ths. In decimal form, it would be 0.001. And in words, I would say thousandths or 1/1000th. Either way. Now I could highlight as many cubes as I want to represent different fractions or different numbers. What if I highlight 2 little cubes? What would my fraction be? It would be 2/1000ths or 0.002. What if I highlighted 9 of them? So I'm going to highlight 9 cubes out of 1,000. My fraction is going to be 9/1000ths or 0.009. In other words, how many decimal spots do thousandths have? They have 3. They have 2 zeros and then the number. Or, for example, if I highlighted 23 little cubes out of this whole box, I would have, my decimal would be 0.023. I still have 3 decimal spots, 3 place values after the decimal. So thousandths has 3 place values after the decimal. Please go ahead and do the guided learning on pages 8 and 9, numbers 1 through 5. How much is 10 thousandths worth? If I highlight 10 cubes out of my thousandths cube, how much is that really? So 10 out of, it would be 10 out of 1,000. And what is that equivalent to? If I had a place value chart and I had my hundredths here, and my thousandths. Now, 10 out of 1,000 means I have 10 thousandths over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I have 10 circles or chips or cubes or whatever you want to call it in your thousandths place, it's the same as having what? So saying 10 out of 1,000 is the same as saying 100ths, because once you have 10 chips in your thousandths place, you can go ahead and just make that 1 in your hundredths place. So this equals the same as if you had your hundredths place and you just put one circle underneath it or one chip. So in other words, 10 thousandths equals 100ths. Remember that thousands are greater than hundreds, but hundredths are greater than thousandths. Okay, now if I tell you, write 300ths and 3,000ths as a decimal. So it's one decimal, and it's going to be 300ths, 3,000ths. The easiest thing for you to do would be to write out a place value chart with your ones and a decimal, and tens, hundredths, thousandths. Now remember, I asked you to write 300ths and 3,000ths. So you're going to automatically put 3 in the thousandths and 3 in the hundredths. That means every other value is going to be 0. You don't have any value under the ones before the decimal or right after the decimal. So in decimal form, this would look like this, 0.033, right? How many circles or chips do you have in the thousandths place? You have 3, so that would be represented as 3. And hundredths, you have represented as 3. Ones and tens, you have nothing, so you're going to represent it as 0. So your decimal here for 300ths and 3,000ths is 0.033. And you're going to read it as 33 thousandths. That's how you're going to read it. In other words, as a fraction, you would write it as 33 over 1,000. Now please go ahead and do guided learning on page 10, numbers 6 through 10.